Good mornings, Titans Nation. Welcome back into another edition of the Morning Glory Show. We missed you last week, but we are back, and Titans football is back. I am your host, as always, Jake Robertson. You can follow me at Glory Day Sports and all socials. And I'm joined by my co-host, as always, B-Will at B-Will TF TV and at TF TV Sports. How you doing today, B-Will?
I'm great, man. Can't complain. We're finally getting to the swing of things.
We got lots to talk about today. And then on my other side, we have Jonathan Miller at Esports Valen. We did correct his name right before the show on the thing. But how you doing today, Jonathan?
It's been wrong for months and no one said a thing, including
Nobody
me.
knows.
So it's all good. No, man, I'm excited. We're getting into the heat of training camp, into the heat of the preseason. Got the first dub. Now we're practicing against Seattle, and it looks like the boys are getting after it. So really excited to talk Titans football today, man.
Titans undefeated for the longest time and forever in the preseason. We fixed some names, and we're changing logos, as you guys can see. We have a new redesign that was spawned by the brainchild of Jonathan Miller, and we're going to throw that up here. We'll have merch coming out here soon,
Ooh,
but man, does
that
not look sharp.
Beautiful.
We are super excited for it, guys. If you guys are joining us for the first time, make sure you join us in the comments over on YouTube. If you check us on Twitter, make sure you hit that retweet button. We do still have the Tajay Spears signed jersey giveaway going on. All you got to do is hit subscribe down below to enter that. As soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're giving that away. I think we are just under 150, so we're closing in fast. Let's get it there before week 1. Let's get it there before Chicago. But we have
Spears, man, real quick. Guess who's got the best running back duo in the league now with the injury of Gibbs?
It's up there. It's up there, and they were on full display last week. I mean, Tony Pollard popping off big runs, Spears juking a guy out of his shoes to get into the end zone. And we'll be talking about them. We got to talk about RB3 too, see how that all plays out. But we got lots going on. We got lots to talk about. And I think starting on the offensive side is probably a good place to start. We've got so much newness all around, from Bill Callahan to Brian Callahan calling plays for the very first time. How did Will Levis look out there and the command on the first team offense? What do you think about that, Jonathan?
Yeah, he looked good. I wish we could have maybe not seen them start in the red zone at the preseason game and kind of gotten, maybe some more field position or less field position, so we could have seen a little bit more from the offense. But they looked good. 2 touchdowns, 2 offensive possessions, looked good. 4 of 5 for Will Levis. There were a couple of plays that I think he maybe sped through his progression to get to the open guy, which, on one side of the coin, you're like, hey, good job. And on the other side of the coin, you're like, dog, they were open. You could have hit somebody for probably a touchdown a little faster. But yeah, I mean, I think he looked pretty good. The essence of the Brian Callahan offense is definitely coming through, which is good. That's what we wanted to see from him. And as far as practice goes, all accounts, the deep balls look like they're connecting a little bit better now, a little deeper into training camp. Calvin Ridley admitting that some of those balls are on him. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with how Will Levis has looked, and the offense seems to be clicking. In the time that they even said it early in the offseason, they're like, it's going to take a little bit of time to get some reps and kind of get a little bit more comfortable. It seems like a couple weeks into training camp now, they're starting to get a little bit more comfortable and seeing a little bit better, production from the offense as a whole.
Definitely. I think all I was really looking out there is I wanted them to be efficient, and I wanted to look good and smooth pre-snap, which is something Will Levis did struggle with last year. By all accounts, he had to have full command out there. As far as the checkdowns, I think it's going to be a huge shift for Titans fans. We've always been this 3 yards in a cloud of dust for the past several decades, really. We're seeing this shift to where we're essentially running through the air. And when you have guys like Spears and Pollard out there that can take it out of the backfield and have that efficiency to also be great in pass pro, Brian Callahan said earlier this week, this is the best pass protecting running back duo that he has ever had and coaching. So we're seeing this huge shift out there. It was very vanilla as far as the play calls go out there. Other than the scramble out of the pocket where he just got lit we gotta get rid of that. But at the same time, I'm like,
he had 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers on that play. That was his worst play of the day. That was rough.
And looking at the offensive line, I thought they did a great job on that one specifically. The pressure came through the middle. Lloyd Cushenberry actually, he overset and was beat inside after having a good block on the guy. And Levis just has to have the wherewithal to look downfield because Burks, he was wide open there. You got to get that touchdown. But other than that, I thought it looked great. What about you, B. Will?
Man, he really impressed me. I mean, I think we're going to have to start calling Brian Callahan Yosemite Brian or something. I ain't never seen the Titans line up in that much gun in a long time. I mean, you could put together all the division games last year.
It took me a second for it to materialize for me, but that was good.
Oh yeah. All the games last year. I mean, the Titans have never been a team that lined up in gun that much and 11 personnel, and we've seen it quite a bit in the game. It was really like a shock to me. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but I always had that inkling in my body. So I was like, the Titans are still stuck in the 90s. We're still going to line up 2-3 tight ends, try and pound it into somebody's grill, but we didn't do that. It was just really cool to see. And it was, it really came full circle with where we've been in January, letting go of Vrabel to getting to now with Brian Callahan and seeing just the change, not only that it's been throughout the organization, but also you see it culminating to on the field. And it's transcended into Will Levis and his game. I mean, he looks calmer. You know what I mean? You can see that calmness he's exuding. And that's part of that's Will Levis, but that's from the coach giving confidence in him, putting a system around him that he feels comfortable with, and not every play just imagine if you're a rookie quarterback and the game is going 30, 40 miles per hour, faster than you've ever had in your life, and you're lined up under center and you're doing a hard play action fake with your back to the defense. You turn around and it's a completely new picture than what you looked at when you took the snap. You understand what I'm saying? So the shotgun helps a lot with that, and it keeps the game in front of these guys. A young quarterback like Will Levis in particular, it helps a lot. The picture isn't changing. You're not turning your back completely and then finding a completely new picture how the defense is looking with coverages rotated and everything. I mean, it goes to show you what a modern offense looks like. And then it's also bent into Levis with him and his temperament, something I've always said about Will Levis, something that can really be the downfall of his is his temperament. And I think he's going a little bit overboard with the checkdowns and stuff now, but I'm fine with that. You've got to do that to get to where you need to throughout the season, to where you're not just trying to throw 80-yard bombs every game and every pass play. We know you can do it. Just show us that you can take those, 3 or 4 yard checkdowns, because we see they turn into 7 and 8 yard gains, right? That's better than a lot of the run plays we've had last year, right? So dumping it off to Pollard and letting him get 7 or 8, dumping it off to Ridley underneath and he busts it off for 25. You know what I mean? That's how you sustain drives. That's how you win football games right there. And that's how you keep defenses honest. That's how you open up over the top as well when you're able to do that. So it all goes in hand, and I'm really excited to see it. I just, I would say I'm a little worried about the maybe interior line with Cushenberry and Radens, but even they looked fine. Latham looked fine. The offensive line did well, especially in the run game. I mean, I was surprised with how well they did in the run game. They did exceptional, man. So I'm excited I'm going to knock on wood and say I'm excited for the season. We're going to see.
You guys just saw your starting offensive line open up preseason week 1, which is, by the way, the right side.
Nobody called it.
The right side I predicted. And here's my thing. I think NPF, I'm going to be honest, guys. I gave NPF the benefit of the doubt from his rookie year, I think it was, where he had it was either his rookie or sophomore year. I think he's going into year 3. I'm getting mixed up, but either way, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt pre-injury NPF, which is how he looked pretty good. And so I hoped that was the NPF we were getting. I would argue we're getting an improved NPS from that level of play. He looked really good. Really good. So the offensive line was for the most part impressive. After looking at it a second time, I think the level of play from the offensive line was so poor that even a not so great performance from JC Latham and from Cush at certain times still looked better than every offensive line we've seen trotted out the last 2 years. So it was like, even though JC was like, man, I had a kind of a dicey game. And when you go back and look at the tape, it kind of was a little dicey. There was a couple of mistakes here and there.
He didn't play that good.
But like, didn't give up a sack, it was just like, maybe like 1 or 2 pressures or something. Like there was that one where he kind of got speed to bold and like got bowled right into Levis's back, but Levis was able to get rid of it quick. I think that was actually the big Ridley play. But yeah, I think for me, this offensive line, the modern style offense that we're starting to see, it's just like B. Will said, like we've had, like as Titans fans, we've just been like, you have this PTSD about what you expect to see from the offense. And the difference now is that you're not setting up the run to set up big play action. It was like very vanilla and I could only imagine very easy to scheme against defensively when you're going up against that team. You just have to hope Derrick Henry didn't run you over and keep the drive alive. If you're able to contain him, then you're stopping the offense pretty effectively, pretty easily. So now that we have like this very modern, open up the field, take the checkdowns. Like you said, I mean, the checkdowns were going for, 7, 8, 9 yards. That is crazy efficient. Didn't love opening up the game with run. Gonna be honest. That's when my PTSD kicked in. I was like, oh God, no. Like, here we go. But no, overall was very impressed with what we saw from the offense. And I'm actually excited to see what the remainder of practice looks like from the Seattle stuff, because I definitely want to get into the joint practice, because that was pretty impressive.
Man, I wish I could, I would call myself pretty invested into the Titans, like knowing what's going on with them and stuff like that. But just imagine or put yourself in the shoes of I hate to use the word casual, but a fan that doesn't really keep up with the Titans day to day. But you're a big Titans fan and you show up to the game on Saturday and you see this completely new offense. You're like, who the hell?
It's a shell
you know
shock.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a shell shock, right? It was a shell shock for somebody that follows the Titans religiously. You know what I mean? So just imagine for those fans that don't really have the time or the luxury to be able to do that, and they see that new look offense out there. I mean, that's a source of excitement.
We saw a quarterback that was still standing at the end of a play. That's a shell shock to everybody out there. And even on that play where Latham did give up the pressure, I don't even know if you call it a pressure at that point with the throw to Ridley. Ridley was like the 3rd or 4th read on that play. So even when he gave that up, he gave Will Levis enough time to go through his progressions and to make the correct throw. And then Ridley does what Ridley does. I was very, very happy with the offensive line and how they looked out there. Obviously, not the biggest MPF or Dylan Radin's guy out here, but I thought they performed very well. And I think Skoronski has the potential to be an all-pro, Pro Bowl type of player there at left guard. And Cushenberry, I put out the post yesterday that I'm slightly concerned with him just based on the practice reports that we've really seen. I mean, he gave up the one pressure on Saturday, and really he did hold his part for long enough for Will Levis to make the correct decision. Unfortunately, Will Levis just held the ball a little bit too long and made the wrong decision. But we hear in the practice reports of the defensive line in Seattle kind of throwing him around. We saw T'Vondre Sweat kind of throwing him around. I think he's going to be very serviceable. I think he will be a very good improvement over Aaron Brewer and what we've seen put out there for the last 2 to 3 years. I don't know if he has that potential of a Skoronski that he can be this top 5 center in the league. I think he'll be top 10, top 12. And that's amazing. That's amazing. That's so much better than what we've had out there. So I'm super excited to see what this team looks like this week against Seattle and see how they improve. I heard that I think it was Don Davenport was talking about how Latham had not a great day in day one, but Taylor Lewan recounted that, hey, this is when you try new shit out. You're going to play with your drop set. You're going to throw that new stuff out there, and it might not look good on a day-to-day basis, but that's where you learn. And that's where you lean on Bill Callahan, big coach, to be out there and be like, hey, let's change this up. This is what you did wrong in this part. Let's improve. So on Saturday, I think we'll see an even better Latham. He's going to only improve as the season progresses as a rookie. This is a very young offensive line. and we forget about that. We've moved from this old veteran where everybody's dealing with injuries and coming back and all that stuff. It should be very exciting for Titans fans this year.
Jake, I do want to jump in on the Cushenberry thing. The one thing that I think is important to note in the context of training camp for centers is that Cushenberry, where he's kind of getting exposed, if you will, is in the one-on-one situations, right? And almost every time he's dealing with a big interior defensive lineman. That is not going to happen a whole lot. He's not going to be in one-on-one situations with the best defensive interior lineman. He's going to have like combo block opportunities, stunts that he might have to pick up and help. But for the most part, where Cushenberry is going to shine is climbing to the second level and picking up a linebacker or picking up a safety or pulling and picking up a backer or maybe an edge guy. One of those situations where Cushenberry is really good. He's not going to really get like, of course, like, yes, like Tavondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, Byron Murphy, I'm sure on the other side for yesterday's practice. Of course, like he's going to get dog walked a little bit by those really powerful interior defensive guys, but he's not going to be put in that situation very frequently in real game situations. So that's the only reason why I'm not worried about Cushenberry. Because like he even showed it. I mean, there's been a couple times where he got beat, I guess, or 1 or 2 reps where he made a mental error. But for the most part, I mean, he had several reps in the preseason where he was on an island with a guy and absolutely sealed him off. There was a big run, the big run that Pollard had to the right side between the tackles. Like Cushenberry got to the second level, completely sealed off his guy, and they were just out there by themselves. So I'm not too worried about him. I think in real game situations, he'll be okay. But you know what you said on the Latham situation, I'm not worried about him at all either. Like I think when it comes to like playing the position, he has the tools. He is as advertised. You know, you guys talked about we didn't talk about it a whole lot on this show in terms of the pre-draft process because we just didn't talk about Latham a whole lot. But all the evaluation you saw on Latham pre-draft of like once he gets his paws on you, you're done. The rep is over. We saw some of that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That
one rep, he stonewalled him.
Absolutely. Just Yatir Gross-Matos just literally put him in the dirt. And then when he got up, he just like held him in the spot. So I'm not worried. I think like for me, a lot of the errors that it looked like Latham was making were based on like, you know, like pre-snap, like the snap, like pre-snap evaluation. Once the snap happens, he comes out of his set and then kind of like redirects his attention again. And it's like, hold on, like, bro, you have to know this is your guy. You need to be focused on this guy. So like little things like that. So I feel really good about the offensive line as a whole. Peter Skoronski looks like an all-pro. He might've been the best player on the field for us during the preseason game. So that's really gratifying. Also, I think it helps when you're literally going against Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat every single rep, and you're just getting, you know, iron sharpening iron, and then you go out there and play against who? Like, I don't even know. So Skoronski probably getting the best work, I would say, as an interior guy. And then who knows? Maybe that's been the case for Radens. Like he's been dog walked a lot in a lot of reps, and so maybe the iron is sharpening that iron too. But a lot of positives for the offensive line.
The big thing with Latham is that what was a really big high of his coming out, you know, with the scouting, who like the scouts who scouted him, and then looking at Alabama, what his highs were. I was really impressed with how easily he got to the second level and how nimble he was in a run game trying to climb. You know, I didn't think he had that in him. You know, I mean, we didn't really see that a lot at Alabama. I didn't see it at least, but you really saw that a lot. We had a pin and pull play where he got out on the perimeter. Him and Skoronski are leading the charge. You've got the big run.
He botched that. He was so fast that he botched it. Like he missed his block because he was pursued. He was up there. Yeah.
Which is that'll come. That's the youthfulness. And then you've got it was either the big Pollard run on the right hand side. He climbed to the second level, was able to seal off that backside linebacker. I mean, that's really what impressed me a lot with him, was sort of the finesse and how well he moves. Right now, it's just a matter of, you know, another issue that people said about him was just his pass pro and just refining that. But we've got the best offensive line coach in the league. I'm not worried about that, right? So, you know, there's a lot of potential with Latham, man. He's got a lot of tools. You can see why he was drafted so highly. I mean,
it was like the opposite problem.
Jumps off the screen.
It was like he was trying to do too much. Like he was literally trying to help Skoronski and then still not get beat. And he still had situations where he didn't entirely get beat. So like he literally put himself at a disadvantage and still at least finished the rep to where he didn't give up his guy to the quarterback. So yeah, I mean, I think like the difference is like when we're watching Andre Dillard and Jalen Duncan even, and a lot of the other players we've had on the left side that, Dennis Daly, like those guys would just outright get toasted by their guy. It's like they didn't even absolutely.
We saw Duncan get toasted even on Saturday, dude.
So
it doesn't make sense to me.
Being able to find and seal that edge, even at the very last minute, to not give up that sack in those situations. Yatir Gross-Matos is not a bum. Like he's
an athlete.
He's a pretty good player coming out of college, and not only that, like he's had some quality reps. I think he was drafted to Green Bay and might have played for one or two other teams. But yeah, I mean, that's a good player that he was able to kind of, keep him from getting back there. So yeah, I'm actually excited. It's funny. I'm so excited about the ones, and I'm kind of bummed that we're probably only going to get to see maybe one drive from the ones coming up this game. But all the anticipation is aimed in the right direction, at least for this offense.
Out of the ones, who on offense do you need to see more of this week in Seattle at the joint practices or in this game? Who do you think needs to show improvement? Let's start with you, B. Will.
I mean, I was satisfied with the offensive line. I think I'd have to see a continuance of improvement out of Levis and a continuance of an improvement out of the offensive line. I've got to see them build on that performance from last week. We can't see regression. I've got to see Levis continue to be a lot more temperamental in the pocket, a lot more calm, not so scattered. I wouldn't call him scatterbrained, but he's just like he's like a Ritalin baby or something. I don't know what to call it. It looks like he needs a Ritalin in the pocket sometimes. But he looked calm. He looked calm this past game, and going forward, that's really what I need to see. I need him to take his profit, as Bill or Brian Callahan would say. Take your profit, because you see what it can turn into. It turns into a 8-9 yard game a lot of times, and that gets the chains going. I need to see Ridley as well. I mean, Ridley he's got to improve. I mean, he had a good catch, but outside of that, he was pretty absent. I need to see him more involved in the game, and it's preseason. We'll see with that. And other than that, I mean, those are the guys I need to see improve offensively. I'm not worried about the scheme with Brian Callahan. He called a vanilla game last game. I mean, it was absolutely nothing in it. The most exciting thing that he called was a jet motion with Nick Westbrook-Akina. You know what I mean? And the defense bid on that. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, that was the thing I was gonna say. I was like, bro, you guys know damn well
you watched no tape.
Yeah, you guys are not.
I would have said he's not going anywhere. The only jet motion he has is when he gets on a damn plane. But
oh my god,
but I don't. That's what I got to see, man. I just got to see in a continuance of an improvement. And I would say Burks, but we'll see. I wanted to say Burks, but
Burks looked good yesterday. He's got the clip where he toasted Devon Witherspoon, and I mean that's no slouch. He's only got about 70 pounds. You guys should have seen my
face the first time I saw that clip, man.
Oh yeah, I had to go and check the player roster. I was like, I need to know that wasn't a fourth string corner out there. I pulled it up and I was like,
I had.
All right, cool, done deal, fine with that. And it sounds like he had a good rest of the practice as well. Like we were saying earlier, he was open on that Will Levis scramble where he could have had a touchdown there. And he broke a tackle on Saturday, guys. First one ever in my recollection. And he caught up. He was cheesing ear to ear.
I was about to say, you know what he did after he broke that tackle? He went to the sideline. He was cheesing from ear to ear, took his helmet off, and then come back in the game.
Yeah, he really did. And then we got the news yesterday. It's about the cramps, potentially hamstring.
Look at Jonathan.
Issue.
He can't stop. He loves it.
I'm just waiting.
Yeah, hop in.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I can't stop cheesing. This guy he's kind of showing up in a way that everybody, it's not just, obviously we have this little thing on the show where, it's like been like me versus B-Will on this topic, and Jake's kind of played the middle. But yeah, I think we're all in the same camp of we would love for Burks to be the guy that we all hope for him to be, right? First round pick, showed, some serious talent in college and then haven't been able to put it together here. And to see him starting to put it together, I mean, I was cheesing just reading the camp notes, seeing like something I read was Burks didn't, like, outside of one dropped catch, which is where he kind of came down with the cramp, he didn't lose a rep. And another thing that I read from, it was either JT or Tehran, I can't remember which one it was, but someone said he can't be pressed. And I was like, dog, yes, this is the part of the offense that we need. I told you guys weeks ago that he needs to be the premier X, or at least be a featured X on this offense, where you can line him up on the line and he's not going to get pressed. He's going to win. He's going to beat his man and then do what he did during the preseason. He did see the field more. He didn't get targeted, but something he did in a really big play, if you guys notice, was he stretched the field on that Calvin Ridley play. It was actually a beautiful design where there was a couple of just deep route. There's like a middle, there's like a post, and then there was that go route, which is what Traylon ran. He toasted his guy and beat him. And it just completely opened the middle of the field. Calvin was able to make a big play. So things like that, that's where you have value in that player. So my answer is two people, but the first cop-out answer is Traylon Burks. I need to see him continue to do this. Consistency. We've seen the flashes. We've all seen the flashes. But we can't build a career off. You can't build an offense around flashes, right? Like it needs to be a legitimate cramp. We need to see them. We need to see him out there again today, and we need to see him making plays again. We need to see him on Saturday. We need to see him making plays, and we need to see him stay healthy, because at the end of the day, that's the biggest part of this. The flashes are cool. We see he's improving. All those things. Got to see him continue to stay out there. So I'm going to be, stay cheesing and be happy about this, but at the same time, I'm guarded because we have to see him stay healthy. That's the thing I'm the most nervous about. So that's my quick cop-out answer. My real answer is on the back end of this receiver room, because I keep finding myself, I'm struggling, and maybe this is a good segue into the next topic, but I'm struggling on the back end of this receiver room because I feel like there's 3 players that are almost the same guy, and maybe it's 4 players, but there's 3 to 4 players that are almost the same guy. And it's like, we saw from Jaquan Jackson had a massive day yesterday in joint practice against the Seahawks, where he took 2, shallow crosses, it looked like, for just big gains, like 70, 60 plus yard touchdowns. And then you see Kearis Jackson looking like a vet out there, absolutely roasting Devon Witherspoon on a comeback route. And it's like, who are these guys? So
is that when Witherspoon's like, I suck.
I'm trash.
I suck.
I'm trash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, bro, you are. This guy's a practice squad receiver. He's cooked you. So yeah, and then, Kyle Phillips is another conversation. I know B-Will not huge on him, but I've been pretty high on Phillips just in terms of what he can do in the game. But the problem is, it's similar to Traylon Burks, where he'll put it together for had a good game in Pittsburgh game last year, did pretty well against Tampa Bay, had these flashes where he's just absolutely cooking his man. Really polished route runner, okay hands, but just finding ways to not be a factor, like dropping those 2 kickoff, just reps in the preseason, in the warm up, and then that probably hurt his play time. Not gonna lie, they probably went, ugh, okay, well, let's see some other guys. So I personally need to see more from. I want to see more from Kearis Jackson. I want to see more from Jaquan Jackson, and I want to see more from Mason Kinsey. Phillips, I kind of know. I think we know what we're getting. It's really hard for me to not fit Phillips into the roster, because I think that, and you guys have seen it, even the practice reps, he is maybe the second best route runner on this team, opposite of Calvin Ridley, in terms of polish. He looks so smooth. But the problem is, that's the best part of his game, and that's not everything you need from a receiver. So it's like, is that good enough to make the roster when you have guys like Jaquan Jackson who look really, really good, and you're also adding value in the special teams? Kyle Phillips, we know he's not going to beat out he's not going to beat out the Jacksons or Tajay. Do you guys? Another thing I wanted to point out really quickly before I pass it to you guys, if you guys have paid close attention to the depth chart, notice Tajay Spears, opposite of these guys in kick return, and that hasn't changed from the past 2 weeks. It happened going into week 1. We also saw it now going into week 2 against Seattle. So what I'm thinking is basically what that means is that 2 of these guys are not making the roster because of their special teams ability. One of these guys is going to make the roster because of the special teams ability. So Brian Callahan has and Colt Anderson, I guess, have some very difficult decisions to make on the back end of this receiver room, because there's virtually 4 guys that are the same player, and 3 of them have been really impressive. Yeah. And you can, and it's clear that Brian Callahan likes Kyle Phillips too, because he's shown up in practice. So they have a very difficult decision to make, and I'm not really sure where I stand either. I feel like I need to see more from all 4 of those guys.
So where do you land as of right now? 6 or 7 receivers on the 53?
It's really hard for me to say that they'll keep 7, because traditionally the Titans have never kept 7, but also obviously this is a much different regime. So for me, I think they don't even know yet, because I think that there's a couple of rooms that will be impacted. So to me, maybe you can keep 1 less corner and Caleb Farley doesn't make the cut. Maybe you keep 1 less backer because guys like, Garrett Harlow and maybe someone else goes to IR. So that way you can fit additional, maybe you keep 7 linemen instead of 8. So like, I don't even think the Titans know yet. I don't think Brian Callahan and his staff know yet. They're going to have to get to the end of the preseason and say, okay, like, because there's strategy to it as well. Like if your receivers all ball, and here's the thing, like here's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, is that guys can actually secretly, the coaching staffs would never admit this, because it's kind of like, I was going to use the word inhumane. That's not the word I want, but you guys kind of know where I'm going. It's like kind of messed up a little bit, where coaching staffs will purposely not give a guy certain playing time and give him a chance to shine much, because if you have to make a decision between cutting that guy and someone else, then you don't want to give other scouts the opportunity to let this guy shine and then get stolen. You want to be able to try to claim him on the practice squad. So they're going to have a difficult decision to make. Like maybe someone just plays themselves out of a job, like Kyle Phillips. Like maybe he just never shows up in one of these preseason games and they go, Jaquan, Kieris, Mason even looked really good. And these are the same player. Yeah, these are the same players.
Glad you said his name.
So yeah, I think we don't know yet. And so I'm having a difficult time going in that direction. Selfishly, I would like to keep 7, but I think that might also steal from a position group that needs that extra spot. And maybe at the end of it, what's crazy? I was doing a little, I guess, a little project on my own, like looking at these receivers. You guys are going to call me nuts. But in a couple of them, I actually didn't keep Nick Westbrook-Akina. Yeah. Now, ultimately, I decided to keep him because he's a bigger body receiver. I think he's a very good player. It doesn't make sense to keep all 4 of the guys that I talked about on the back end of this room, because they're all almost the same player. So you don't want to get to the end of Treylon Burks, right? Like the top 4 receivers. You have Treylon Burks at receiver 4, and then you don't want to be like Mason Kinsey, Jaquan Jackson, these guys are all basically the same player. So ultimately I did keep NWI, but I played around with the possibility of maybe not. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe right now I feel like I'm firm on 6. But I would not be surprised if they kept 7.
I wouldn't be surprised if they kept 7 either. And the thing is, I'm not even gonna say I feel bad for him. Glassman, he's probably 9th or 10th on the depth chart to me. I'll be honest. I mean, seriously.
Who's Glassman?
Kyle Phillips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glassman. You could thank Kieris Jackson too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was when I saw the clip of him dropping them punts in pregame, I was about to get pissed off. I thought A to Z was recording an equipment manager catching punts. I didn't understand it, but with him, I mean, if we keep 7, I'm putting Kinsey over Kyle Phillips as is anyway. I think Kinsey has a lot more to offer than Kyle Phillips. In the punt return game, we know he can be the 3rd quarterback. I think he offers more receiving, and as a receiver. But even if we keep 7, I would say it's Hop, Ridley, Burks, NWI, Boyd, and to Jackson too. That's what I would see as the 7, just because of what Kearis brings special teams wise, and what Jaquan has shown to bring special teams and offensively. The both of them. It's really going to be a tough situation for Callahan and co. to determine what they want, because I really see us only keeping 6, but I could easily see us keeping 7. And unfortunately, did I say Burks in that 7?
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah. So unfortunately, Glassman he's the odd man out, and I would say he doesn't even have a chance, because Kinsey should be higher on the pecking order than he is. He just doesn't offer enough, and we haven't seen it on the field. We see how he performs when there's cones on the ground or in practice. We just don't see it on the field. He was anonymous in the game. He was on the field.
He put some good games together last year, but here's the problem, B-Will. This is let's not avoid the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the injury bug, right? So that's
where he got the nickname, Glassman.
When you're putting, but I'm not just talking about him though. I'm talking about Burks is injury prone. D-Hop is injury prone. You have opportunities on the back end too. Kearis Jackson missed an entire year last year. He got hurt just running a rep in practice, against no people. So you naturally, when you're making, and then Phillips, of course, injury prone. So you have a decision to make here on what your roster is going to look like, and you have to be strategic, because you might the Titans might genuinely like all 8 or 9 of these guys. Bryce Oliver's looked pretty okay too.
Thank you for saying his name. I was going to bring him up.
Him as well.
Yeah, Bryce Oliver's looked pretty good too. So there's 9 or 10 receivers that you feel pretty good about. Now, unfortunately for Bryce Oliver, because of opportunity or whatever, he's going to go to the practice squad, but they'd love to retain him. Guys like maybe they decide that Mason Kinsey hasn't gotten enough shine, but they like him, so he might go to the practice squad. They have to decide, okay, what guys are we most likely to be able to keep? And so that's why it sounds crazy, but that's why I think there's a good chance that Kyle Phillips might make the initial 53, because they would feel like he is the easier one to get stolen and not be able to make it to the practice squad, versus Mason Kinsey, who, doesn't have anywhere near the, notoriety amongst the league. Mason Kinsey makes it to the practice squad every year. So maybe they're okay, he'll make it there. We're not worried about Mason getting stolen. And that might be literally the reason. Because here's the thing, they're going to have to tap into these guys. If they keep 6 or 7, if they have an injury or 2, which is inevitable, it's going to happen, even if the injuries are only a couple weeks or whatever, they have to have reliable players to pull from. And so it's all a game. It's you're playing the Game of Thrones here. So we'll see.
Last man getting taken on from a practice squad is not going to be the end of the world. We can pick somebody off the street that'll give the same or more value than Glassman, in my opinion. We can't. It's not him being stole from the practice squad, which I don't think will happen, is not that big of a deal. I think we're putting too much weight into that.
We can get somebody off the street too.
We can get somebody off the street to do what he does.
I think Teron put it well. He called them the Smurfs. And that's basically all of these slot guys we have out there, from Trayshawn to Mason to Kearis to Kyle, Jaquan even. I think it's the firm 6, with Jaquan being the 6th. And what you talked about with Tajay Spears with the kick return, I think he is the kick returner. I think he is the kick returner week 1, and they'll have somebody else back there with him. And when we look at it, and you brought up Bryce Oliver, I think he has played his heart out this offseason. I don't think they care which one of these guys sticks to the practice squad. And it could be 1 or 2 of them.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter. They're the same person. But I do believe Brian Callahan has a type. He likes a bigger guy that can go and win out an X, Y, or Z position. So that leads me to, I think Bryce Oliver will make this practice squad. But
look here, Jake. With the slot receivers that we have, Tyler Boyd spelled the end of Kyle Phillips. Really, Kyle Phillips spelled the end of Kyle Phillips. But when we signed Tyler Boyd, you could stick a fork in Glassman. But look here. If you look at the slot receivers we have, I'm not even talking just depth chart of receivers. I'm saying depth chart of slot receivers. Phillips is 4th or 5th. Boyd is 1. Westbrook-Akina, Hop will fill in there. Burks will fill in there. Jackson, one of the Jacksons will fill in there. And then we got Phillips. He's nowhere close. He ain't lining up outside. He's done. I think he's gone. Rightfully so. I mean, it took long enough.
I think there's a good chance that that he's probably at the bottom only because Kyrgios has looked really good. I mean, if we want to talk about the most improved offensive player from, a previous year or whatever to right now, it's Kyrgios Jackson. It's not even close.
He looked good last year though, man.
He looked good. Like, yeah, he was good. And like he had I think he had another big return in the preseason last year too.
Yeah.
And he, and then he missed the year. So yeah, like who knows what we would have seen from him, but I'm not just talking about special teams. I'm talking like he's looking good, like lining up outside.
He had a good practice yesterday.
Yeah. So, well, he's had several. And so that's why I'm saying, like, I think the coaching staff needs to see a ton from those last 4 guys or so, because they need to say, like, okay, like, who do we feel good about here? And I'm not all the way out on Kyle Phillips. I think he is a very talented receiver. I think his problem is he hasn't been available. And at that point, when you're looking at wide receiver 6 or 7 as that player in the back of the depth chart, if you're not adding value on special teams and you're not adding value at all ever on the field, it's hard to say that you can stay on that roster. So that's why I think there's a good chance that currently, if they had to make cuts today, I think that Kyle Phillips would probably miss the boat. But I do think that Brian Callahan's higher on him just based off of the tape that he watched last year. Because there were times last year you got to give him his flowers a little bit, B. Will. There were games where he looked really good. Like that Pittsburgh game, he looked really good. He had some big plays. He looked really good in the Tampa game at times.
You said Brian Callahan is excited off the tape from Kyle Phillips last year?
I think that, yeah. I think
all
that
12 snaps.
I think cassette tape.
I think that he likes the player.
It wasn't long. Wasn't much.
It wasn't much. No. It wasn't much. And that's the problem.
You fit it in a TikTok.
That's the knock on Kyle Phillips, though. Like, that's why we're talking about him potentially getting cut, is because he hasn't been available. And
hey, give me that Kyle Phillips cut up from last year. Give me that Kyle Phillips cut up from last year. Somebody sends you a TikTok. Are you serious?
You guys we're arguing the same thing. He was not available. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah. So, yeah.
Before we move on from the offense, because we've done about 45 minutes on it, what did we think about QB2, QB3? Is Malik Willis making this a competition, or is it Mason Rudolph's job to lose? We'll start with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's as much as I hate to admit it, because I'm not as high on Rudolph as everyone on the planet. It's Rudolph's job to lose. And they wouldn't have specifically picked him, went and signed him and said he's going to be second on the depth chart if they didn't plan on him being the backup. And I think that it's probably makes the most sense, because you want your backup to be a veteran who has experience, who, if needs to get in there for a couple of weeks, you feel good. It's like, okay, we can plug in, we can win some ball games with him. And so it's probably going to be Rudolph. And to be fair, that's like a fair evaluation. I'm a little bit partial to Malik Willis, especially after seeing like he's improved quite a bit. So that was like kind of my third answer. I was considering that for like the who do you need to see more of. I would like to, in the Seattle game, see those kind of guys flip. And I would like to see Malik Willis in the QB2 spot where he's running with the 2s for an extended amount of time. Because every like large portion of evaluation we've gotten from Malik has always been with the 3s. I mean, hell, even when he was starting several games, he still was playing with wide like 3s, like, Chris Conley and Nick Westbrook-Akina was wide receiver 1, so like I would like to see Malik in more practical game action in this offense to get a fair evaluation of him. But, even as partial as I am to Malik, and I would love to see more of him and love to see him make a competition of it, which I think he is, it's still Rudolph's job to lose.
Yeah, I'd say with Malik, politics is what's going to keep him out of that second quarterback position. They're not. Malik isn't their guy. That's no secret. Rudolph is their guy. But for me, I would want to see Malik as the second quarterback. We're not in a position where if we go down, or if Will Levis goes down, that we need a backup quarterback to continue a playoff push or to continue a Super Bowl chase. It's not happening. Get the guy in there with more upside that we can maybe flip for a trade pick next year in the draft, or one that has the upside to take over the job potentially if Will Levis doesn't pan out. And I'm not saying Levis has the potential to, or Willis has the potential to take over the job, but I don't care about having a steady Eddie at backup quarterback when we're not competing for a championship. It doesn't fucking matter. If Will Levis goes down, we're in trouble. We need to draft high in the damn draft next year. I'm just saying it now. Have the guy with upside in the quarterback room behind him. That's what I would say to do, but that's just not that's me thinking long term. These coaches are not thinking that long term. They're thinking for themselves to save their job, which is a 3-year window, and they're not going to do that. But me with the Titans in mind, that's what I would rather have. But yeah, I think it'll be Rudolph, and to me, it's probably just going to be Rudolph off politics. Rudolph could go out here and throw 4 interceptions, and he'll probably be the second quarterback. And that's just the stone cold truth, I'd imagine. It's sad, and Willis has shown that he's a great person, great competitor. It just hadn't worked out for him. He was put in an absolutely terrible situation with Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly, and they really ruined the start of his career. And it's sad, but that's what it is, man. It's a cold world out here.
Yep, I tend to agree with you guys. I want to see him take QB2 snaps, but for a different reason. With even Minnesota just recently lost their quarterback and their rookie. Name is escaping me at the moment.
McCarthy.
But yeah, McCarthy. I want to see how he can perform to maybe where we can potentially generate a trade opportunity. It is Mason Rudolph's job. I'm done with the Malik Willis experience after Saturday. I mean, he had the great run. He's holding the ball far too long, and he's going to hold this offense back if he has to take any kind of starting reps. Mason Rudolph, I think, can win with this team. I love Malik Willis. I think he's probably the best dude on this team, and I've really liked him since the get-go. But as of even keeping 3 quarterbacks on this 53-man roster like most are predicting, I don't care. I want to see just him and Willis and Rudolph on there and save a spot for a 7th wide receiver, for a 4th tight end, for an additional safety or linebacker.
That spot don't count against the roster. That emergency one doesn't.
The emergency doesn't?
Around. I don't think it does.
Yeah, I'm not
add on game
100% sure how that works, though. I don't think you get to take a 3rd quarterback. I think they would have to go into the free agency pool and clear waivers, and then you would be able to add them. I don't know the specifics on that. We'll have to talk to somebody like TD or somebody that might know that answer. But yeah, I think they would have to essentially forfeit the contract on that player. Like, let's say it's Malik. They would have to forfeit that for him to be, and then he could be potentially claimed before they would have the chance to re-add him as the emergency backup or whatever.
I'm fine with letting him walk. Go to a place that, God, I hate Baltimore. But if he went to Baltimore, I think he could be a better backup than what they currently have over there. But yeah, ultimately, I think that kind of wraps it up on the offensive side of things.
Real quick, defense, you said Minnesota before we get to. Do you think the best quarterback in our history will get his job there?
Ryan Tannehill. They got to be calling him up. They got to be calling the dude up. I mean, they were.
I like him better than Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold is awful.
Hey, man.
And I hope they keep Sam Darnold because we play Minnesota this year. But also, if Ryan Tannehill is the starting quarterback, Titans fans are going to be going nuts for that game. So that'd be fun too. It's not. It's not a big.
I don't think he gets a call.
He's enjoying his life, I'm sure, right now. Wish him nothing but the best.
He made a lot of money.
As long as he's not playing the Titans.
He did make a lot of money.
Yeah, made a lot of money off this. But going into the defense, obviously, Denard Wilson. First time calling plays for him as well. What were your just major takeaways from this scheme and these players out there, B. Will?
The biggest takeaway for me would be the linebacker position and how it looks as advertised for us. It's what we thought it was. And it ain't good, buddy. But Otis Reese looked good. The problem with the linebacker position is that we've got a sort of mix of profiles here. You know what I mean? We really need a big linebacker to where we can play nickel and Otis Reese can just go in there and fly. Right? You know what I mean? That's what we need. Somebody to balance out that linebacker room with to just let Otis Reese go in there because he's a little undersized. Right? We've got nothing but undersized linebackers. You know what I mean? And you can't do that when you're playing. You can't be that light when you're playing nickel, when you're playing dime. That's just a recipe to just get gashed. You know what I mean? And that's where we're at right now. So, that's what I'm mostly concerned about. I'm also concerned with Sweat's got to improve. We talk about with, who's got to improve offensively. Sweat has to do a lot better job than he did last week. I know he got double teamed double teamed on 6 out of his 11 snaps. Somebody wrote it up or something like that. I don't give a shit if he got double teamed 11 out of 11. He's got to do better. At first drive, he was in there for a lion's share of the snaps. By the end of it, he's sitting there mush rushing like he's an edge guy at the one tech. Come on now. I don't want to see that shit. Come on now. Do a little better. I mean, seriously. He's drafted in the high second round. I need to see that. And he looks good in practice. Here's the thing. I'm not worried about how these guys look in practice. I don't care. I've seen people look good in practice for years. I need to see how you look on Saturdays, how you look on Sundays. That's what I need to see. And I've got to see it from Sweat. And it's one game, and I wouldn't call this overreacting. I'm just saying I need him to improve, and I need him to put a better performance together than he did last game. That's what I got to see. As far as the scheme and Wilson goes, we're not going to see nothing. We're not going to see a thing until week 1. With Caleb Williams, and we're going to see a whole bunch then with him and with Denard Wilson. And when we get our guys back, we didn't even have Awuzie, we didn't have Hooker, we didn't have Diggs, we didn't have Snead. You wasn't going to see nothing out of this defense. The only thing I was concerned about was Sweat and how easily they ran through us on the first drive with the first team. Well, quote unquote first team defenses. It was a little too easy for them. That's all I'm worried about. But that could be Kyle Shanahan and his scheme. Kyle Shanahan is one of the best play callers in the league. So I wouldn't look too much into the defense, honestly. We got to score points anyway.
Yeah, the defense looked a little rough. And like you said, I mean, we were missing all the key guys. Literally, several, I want to say like 7 starters not playing. But the linebackers, yeah, I mean, obviously Chase Campbell showed quite a bit. Chance Campbell looked pretty good. He also has been hurt. He hasn't really been available to play either. So we'll see if he can kind of keep it together and keep it rolling. Right now, K9, or I guess K56 now, Kenneth Murray has looked pretty good. He's looked pretty good. I've been maybe the most impressed with him in terms of what I was expecting to get from him versus what he's kind of providing. He's looked really good. James Williams even had a couple of pretty okay reps out there. Looked pretty good. So, yeah, I think there's like the door is wide open for what this interior, middle linebacker group is going to look like. Otis Reese, I've been pounding the table for him since week 13 last year. Really big fan of Otis Reese. I think he probably, to me, if I were choosing 2 starting backers, it would be Kenneth Murray and Otis Reese. Those would be the 2 that would start. If I were choosing, I think there's a good chance that's what they have. So I don't hate it, but one thing I will say is that Jack Gibbons is an absolute liability. He cannot play football for this team, at least not starting.
Dr. Gibbons should be charged with malpractice. I'm tired of hearing his name. I'm tired of seeing him on the damn field. I'm tired of seeing them talk about him in practice. Charge him with malpractice. Cut him. Get him out of here.
The only thing he's the doctor of is Soda, because he's been absolutely terrible. He's been not only just getting compromised in, like, he's okay in the run game, but bro, it is an absolute revolving door in the middle of the field when he's in coverage. You can't have it. So yeah, I think that they have a decision to make there. Again, they got to see some guys, maybe a little bit more playing time from a guy like James Williams. They seem really high on him. I would like to see more from Otis Reese. And then see if Chance Campbell can continue to put that together. So yeah, the middle, I'm not too concerned with. I saw some flashes that I liked. So I think that they have, another guy, Cedric Gray, would really love to see more from him. We haven't seen much at all. He's been
guy, Jonathan,
in the back. Yeah. It's not looking great right now. But yeah, I really like Cedric Gray. So would love to see more from him. But yeah, across the board, I don't want to lean too much into the preseason in terms of like what we saw versus what we need to see, because obviously without 7 of your starters, like, the secondary was an absolute revolving door back there. It looked really rough. But again, I'm not like, outside of Jarvis Brownlee Jr., he had a really good rep deep. And so he's looked really good. Roger McCreary looked pretty good too, but yeah, outside of that, there wasn't very much flashing there. I'm a little concerned with the edge play. Jalen Harrell looked pretty good, had some good reps, got to the court, got, his hands up and, was trying to deflect some passes and kind of just be disruptive. Rashad had a couple of really good reps as well, but overall the backup edge play was pretty underwhelming. And so like without like, sending a guy, bringing some extra pressure, they really struggled to get back there. And you would like to see maybe a little bit better production out of the edge guys, maybe see them, kind of get back there with a little bit more efficiency, because there's going to be times where you can only send 4 guys. Someone's got to get home. So that's the only concern that I have on the defensive side. Everything else looked as advertised in terms of what we've seen practice. I'm not giving too much stock to what we saw in the first preseason game, but would like to see some consistency going into week 2 against Seattle. Would also like to see guys like Diggs and Adams, and would like to see a little bit more from some of our starters. It's clear we're not going to see any of Snead, any Simmons, probably not going to see any Harold Landry either. So it'll be hard to really be like, this is the new defense, because it's going to look pretty different when you add literal Pro Bowlers to the team. So, I would caution Titans fans to not get too high or low on what we will see for the remainder of the preseason from this defense, because at this point it's just like it's just a dress rehearsal. It's trying to find out who's going to fit in with this starting team of people who are going to come in. Even if we do see Diggs and Jamal Adams, we won't see them for very long. They'll come out pretty quickly as well. So
if we see him at all.
Yeah.
And Wilson, he's just calling the plays on coach suggestions right now on Madden. You just go to coach suggestions, you just pick the plays.
Bro's just clicking A really fast.
Just clicking A real fast. And I want to give a shout out. I want to take time out of this show to give a shout out to a good buddy of one of the co-hosts, Rashad Weaver. He finally set the edge, and I was very impressed with him when he did that.
Looked pretty good, man.
First time I've seen in his career that he set the edge.
He's been changing his body a lot. Like last season, he went in like a lot thinner. And then, did that help him? Did it hurt him? Who kind of knows? This year, he kind of bulked a little bit more. He's kind of like refining his body composition to try to be, I think help him on the edge there. And he looked pretty good. So it looks like he's bringing the teachings, everything he's learned, kind of putting it together. But yeah, I mean, even Weaver, like, you would still like to see, the pressure on the edge be a little greater than what we saw in week 1. So I'd like to see an improved edge rush overall from this defense going into week 2.
Yeah, they talked about it yesterday. I forget. I think it was A to Z that put it out. The second team defense sacked Sam Howell on 4 consecutive plays when they're in their 3rd down rotation. I want to know who was out there doing that, because they weren't out there on Saturday. No. I think Jalen Harrell, he's not great at one thing. I wouldn't even say he's good at one thing. He's average against all of it, though. And I think with the key absence, I think that could be a very good rotational piece with Weaver, like you guys were saying. As far as Denard Wilson goes, he's playing a lot of zone out there. He's called cover 3, cover 2. That's all you're going to see in the preseason. That first snap of the game, though, and going devil's advocate on Tavondre Sweat, I was pretty happy with what we saw, especially on that first play. He ate up the center, the guard, and the running back, which led Kenneth Murray coming out unbroken or unblocked and making that hit, and where the quarterback basically just had to dirt it there. So if he can continue that, that's amazing. Denard Wilson, he's going to be Coach Boone out there from Remember the Titans. We will blitz all night. He cannot help himself. People are coming off the edges. There's the James Williams blitz where he came out, where Matthew Jackson came off the edge and smoked the running back, decleated the guy, which led to James Williams hitting him. So I think there's going to be lots of exotic blitzes to come. And I think it was something we already knew. He was talking about in the install with Buck and them yesterday, that they're going to be on the line of scrimmage basically every play. We're going to take away those easy throws, which is why he gave Brian Callahan such a hard time when he was at Cincinnati last year. It's because they took away the easy stuff, and he's going to make it hard on you. So I'm super excited as far as that goes. Linebackers, I think it's going to be a committee approach. Jack Gibbons, not my favorite, but I think he's going to be out there on early downs. Same with Kenneth Murray. I think it's going to be a rotation from there where they bring on the smaller guys like an Otis Reese or a James Williams, Cedric Gray. I think Cedric Gray he's just putting on that pro muscle right now, and he's coming back from the injury with the shoulder, of course. Not super worried about that. I think it's Cedric Gray and James Williams in the future. I think it's going to be a dynamic duo for years to come after K9 eventually exit after probably his second year in his contract. The corners, Jarvis Brownlee, one shining spot. Eric Garrer had a great pass breakup where he had the potential to take it to the house, that pass breakup in the end zone. Over that, I think the safeties, they'll be perfectly fine. I think we're not going to see a lot of Amani Hooker, Elijah Molden, Sneed, or not Sneed, Diggs or Adams. And I think Matthew Jackson does make this roster. We wanted to talk about defensive MVPs at this point. Dude has picked off Will Levis, 4 times through this training camp already, and he was showing out on Saturday as well. Super excited for him, and maybe he just fits really well with this Denard Wilson scheme and didn't with the Mike Vrabel side of things. But it's I think this is going to be a very, very good defense. We'll see if they bring in another edge, though. I think that's the only one part that could be potentially missing at this point.
A little bit of breaking news right when we started the show. Carl Lawson to the Cowboys, it looks like. So another edge. Obviously, Matthew Judon got traded to the Falcons yesterday for a third. And then Carl Lawson looks like he's signing with the Cowboys. So not a whole lot out there.
That was
Son Reddick, be our savior.
That was steep for Judon, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Incredibly steep.
Yeah, I promise you, Rand was on the phone with Elliot Wolf, and he was like, a third, and Rand went,
yeah,
we already don't have one. Sorry.
Yeah. But I wish I could.
Yeah. So we'll see what today transpired. The Titans are practicing again at 10 o'clock today, Central Time. And then we got the game on Saturday. And then we're just closing in closer and closer to the season. So it's going to be pretty exciting as we continue this on. So if you guys checked us out for the first time, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're closing in on that 1,000 subscribers like we talked about earlier. Make sure you join that so you can be in for that Tajay Spears signed jersey giveaway. It was right above me, but it unfortunately fell. But yeah, we love you guys. We'll see you guys next Thursday, same time, same place. We'll check y'all later. Peace.
See y'all.